Hello, this presentation is on the Strategy of Peace speech by John F. Kennedy. This presentation is given by Renalyn Arcana and Darian McCode. President John F. Kennedy delivered the Strategy of Peace speech on June 10, 1963, at a graduation ceremony of the American University. He expressed his belief that world peace was possible. He said how the people didn't have to admire the leaders of other countries and the way they function, but at least have a mutual tolerance and be understanding of one another in terms of settlement and their interests. He proposed ideas that would bring the world at peace, such as urging people to re-examine their attitude toward the possibilities of peace, to re-examine their attitude toward the Soviet Union, who was deemed as the enemy, to re-examine their attitude toward the course of the Cold War and how disputes should no longer include any weaponry, and to re-examine their attitudes towards freedom and peace in the U.S. by respecting the rights of the people. He shows the positivity that can occur after a war and wanted people to stray away from the idea that war is inevitable, and instead focus on actions that can be taken and agreements with other countries that would benefit a multitude of nations. Kennedy also declared a ban on nuclear testing in hopes of other countries doing the same. This is a way of showing that America will not start a war and hope other countries won't either.
Okay, so some historical context of the speech. Other than the fact that this is a commencement speech, there's a bigger message Kennedy wanted to portray, especially to the Soviet Union. This was the peak of tension during the Cold War era, and nuclear war was feared by most American citizens. In this speech, JFK assures the country that we have no more urgent task than the pursuit of peace. He expresses to the Soviet Union in this speech that they should follow America's great lead toward peace and operate in the best interests of their people. JFK made sure this speech was broadcasted to the world, especially the Soviet Union, in order to ensure that this message's peace was clearly conveyed. Shortly before was a Cuban Missile Crisis that happened in October 1962. After this, he decided he wanted to construct a better relationship with the Soviet Union and prevent a nuclear war. This calmed the anxieties that American citizens had about nuclear war and looked forward to the future. These next two quotes are Kennedy's most popular quotes about peace. The first one being, "What kind of peace do I mean? I'm talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children." And the next one, "World peace, like community peace, does not require that each man love his neighbor. It requires only that they live together in mutual tolerance, submitting their disputes to a just and peaceful settlement." And history teaches us that enmities between nations, as between individuals, do not last forever. He unites his audience behind the value of peace, basically saying that no matter who you are or where you're from, you can contribute to making the world a better place. By saying that this kind of peace enables men to build a better life for their children, encourages the people to look past today and think of the future of life, not just in America, but the entire world. He uses terms like mutual tolerance to not say everything will be peachy in the world, but that the world can achieve genuine peace. He compares this peace that can be settled between individuals and says that this peace can translate to a nation and that peaceful settlement is not impossible to achieve. This inspires hope in the nation's future and ensures total destruction doesn't have to be America's fate. This adds to his idea that immediate and permanent peace is a fantasy, and by making this our only goal invites incredulity.
Another quote given by Kennedy is that our problems are man-made, therefore they can be solved by man, and man can be as big as he wants. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. Man's reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable, and we believe they can do it again. Here Kennedy is saying that the problems of the world are in the hands of the individuals. Their actions spark disagreement on one end, leading to a confrontation that can either be peaceful or deadly. In the last wars, the confrontation has been deadly, ending with thousands of casualties, and Kennedy doesn't want another war like those to happen. The wars ended because of actions addressed by individuals such as creations of treaties, discussions, and negotiations on policies. Because they have the power to end war, they also have the power to prevent another one from happening.
The first question we wanted to ask is, how do you think the Cold War impacted the civil rights movement and vice versa? I included this quote: "The generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression," because when I read this, I thought of the hate and oppression happening during America at this time and how it contradicts with the message he is sending out to the world. However, I believe that the Cold War helped the civil rights movement spiral and become bigger due to the pressure on the United States to stop the movement and provide equal rights for all citizens. America wanted to prove that they were the most powerful nation, and in order to maintain that reputation and prove our superiority, we needed to end our domestic racial struggle. This racial struggle in America also impacted the Cold War because the Soviet Union saw it as a weakness and used it to their advantage. They used the racial inequality in America as a way to demean us and pin other countries against us. African Americans saw this happening and started to voice their protests to the world to add more pressure to America. As one assumed, the Civil Rights Act came soon after this, and so did the end of the Cold War. The next question is, how did John Kennedy's use of rhetoric impact his intended audience? Rhetoric is the art of persuasive speaking and writing, and I believe Kennedy thoroughly uses it to his advantage in this speech. The Soviet leader during this time even described the strategy of peace speech as one of his finest presidential speeches. Although Kennedy was speaking to a graduating university class, his message can still apply to everyone, even though he wanted to make a statement to the Soviets. Instead of demonizing the Soviets, he humanizes them and paints them as worthy partners in this journey towards peace. American citizens were very receptive to these ideals, as it surely calmed their anxiety and an attitude toward nuclear war. Kennedy assures them that the U.S. has taken steps forward unity and that other countries should do the same. At many times, he points at history and says explicitly that America has never started a war and doesn't plan on doing it now, so there should be no need for worrying. These words also satisfy the Soviet Union and helps them believe that nuclear war is not a necessity in order to gain power and domination.
The last question is, if another war were to occur, how different would it be than the ones before? Would it be worse? I believe that the war would be a lot worse due to factors such as the new technology that we now have that can lead to a much larger number of casualties than the ones that were recorded from previous wars. The U.S. now has nuclear warfare that's a lot stronger than other warfare that was used in the other wars, but this warfare might be too powerful, causing a threat to a whole nation and maybe mankind. Before, they were using chemicals that were dropped by airplanes, but now we can use drones to deliver much powerful bombs that can harm a population. Because the bombs are a lot more stronger, for the people that do survive the event, they would probably not survive as long due to the high levels of radiation in the atmosphere. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.